Good morning. Today we're moving on to a new topic where we're reviewing changing fractions to decimals, decimals to fractions, fractions to percent, all of that. If I were you, the first thing I would do is take notes on this whole page so that you can use it on your assignment. So remember, to change fractions to decimals, all you have to do is divide straight down. So if I have the fraction 1/4, I'm going to do 1 divided by 4. You always put the one that's on top inside the house. So 1 divided by 4, 4 doesn't go into 1. So remember, you add a decimal, add a 0, and then divide again. And if you get a remainder, you have to add a 0, bring down a 0, and divide again until you get no remainder. And I get 0.25 as my decimal. To change a fraction to a percent, remember, you divide to change it to a decimal first, then you move the decimal twice to the right to change it to a percent. So 1 divided by 4 was 0.25, and then I moved the decimal twice, is 25%. You can also use equivalent ratios and set this up. 1/4 equals what over 100, because percents are always out of 100. So if your denominator goes into 100, you can always use equivalent fractions and change this to a fraction that's over 100. You'd still get 25%. To change a percent to a decimal, you move the decimal twice to the left. Because percents are always out of 100, so you move it twice to the left. So notice my answer, 16%, is 0.16, which ends in the hundredths place, because percents are always out of 100. To change a decimal to a percent, you go the opposite way. You're going to change it by moving it twice to the right. So 0.3 is 30%, because I moved the decimal twice to the right. To change a percent to a fraction, you put the percent as a decimal, moving it twice to the left. Then you put it over 100, because percents are always out of 100, and then you reduce it. So 16%, you can either change it to a decimal and do it this way, or you can skip changing it to a decimal and just put it directly over 100. So no matter what your percent is, it goes over 100, because percents are always out of 100, and then you reduce by dividing by a common factor, and that's how I get 4/25. To change a decimal to a fraction, you put the decimal, you put the whole thing on top. Then, however many numbers are behind the decimal, that tells me how many zeros are going to be in my denominator. So because there's 2 digits behind the decimal, I have 2 zeros behind the 1 in my denominator, so it's going to be over 100. If there's a whole number in front, it's going to be a mixed number. So if it was 4.48, this would be 4 and 48 over 100. So copy all this down, because you're going to need it to do your assignment. If you email me, I can also email you a copy of this document. Okay, so let's take a look at pages 9 and 10. So on page number 9, question number 1 says, write yes or no to indicate whether the percent and the fraction represent the same amount. So again, put the percent over 100 and then reduce it. So 50 over 100, divide by 50 on the top and the bottom, see if it's equal to 1/2. Put 45 over 100, reduce by dividing by 5, and see if it's equal to 4/5. Now on this one, what I would do is I would work from the fraction backwards. So I would do 3 divided by 8, change it to a decimal, and then move the decimal twice to the right to see if it's equal to 37.5. Same thing on number 1D. I would take 2 divided by 10. Again, 2 goes inside the house. So 2 divided by 10, change it to a decimal, and then move the decimal twice to the right to change it to a percent. For question number 2, and again, pause your video between each problem so you have time to work out the problem in your spiral notebook. So go ahead and work out problem number 1 in your spiral notebook. It'll probably take you a whole page. Then when you're done, go on to question number 2. Question number 2 says the school orchestra has 25 woodwinds, 15 percussionists, 20 strings, and 30 brass instruments. Select the portion of instruments that are percussion. So the number that are percussion goes on top of your fraction. That'd be 15. The total number of instruments, you're going to add them up. 25 plus 15 plus 30 plus 30 goes on the bottom of your fraction. Write it as a fraction first. Then I would reduce your fraction. So reduce your fraction. See if it matches any of these as a reduced fraction. Then you're going to divide straight down. So 15 divided by whatever you have on the bottom to change it to a decimal. Then move the decimal twice to the right to change it to a percent. And then that will give you all of your answers. Question number 3. For a science project, 3/4 of the students choose to make a poster. Change that to a decimal by dividing 3 divided by 4. And then it says 0.25 of the students wrote a report. Rosa said that more students chose to make a poster than wrote a report. So change 3/4 to a decimal and then compare it. Is that greater than, less than, or equal to 0.25? For question number 4, it says there are 88 marbles in a bin and 25% of the marbles are red. Remember, of means times. So you're going to change this to a decimal by moving the decimal twice to the left and then multiply that decimal times 88 to get your answer. Make sure that you get your decimal in the right place. And make sure you use 2-digit multiplication. Pause your video until you're ready to go to number 5. Okay, so for question number 5, you're going to change this to a decimal, so 0.25 times 60 in your spiral notebook. On this side, change this to a decimal, so you're going to have 0.40 times 30. Once you have multiplied those out, you can compare. Same thing here. Change it to a decimal and multiply because of means times. Change this to a decimal and multiply because of means times, and then you can compare them. On question number 6, Avery wants to put a variety of muffins in the display case. The case is large enough to hold 60 muffins. And it says 40% of the maximum, of means times. So you're going to take 0.40, change it to a decimal, 0.40 times 60 to get the number of muffins that are blueberry. Then you're going to take 20%, change it to a decimal, multiply it times 60 to get the number of pumpkin muffins. And then take 30%, change it to a decimal, and multiply that by 60 to get how many are cranberry muffins. For part B, it's asking if she has already put the maximum number of muffins in the case. So you're going to add up these numbers, how many muffins she already has in the case, see if it's equal to 60. If it's not, then you need to find out how many more muffins she can put in the case. So 60 minus however many muffins total you got here equals how many more she can put in the case. Go ahead and solve all of those problems in your spiral notebook before you go to the next part of the video. Pause your video. Okay, question number 1. So on question number 1, I had 1/2. I divided 1 divided by 2 and I got 0.5. And then I moved the decimal twice to the right and I got 50%. So that is yes. I took 4/5, 4 divided by 5, and I got 0.8. Moved the decimal twice is 80%, so that's a no. C, I took 3 divided by 8. And again, every time I got a remainder, I added a 0, bring down the 0, and divide again. And you get 0.375. Move the decimal twice to the right, and you get 37.5. So that's a yes. For D, again, I took 2 divided by 10, and I got 0.2. Move the decimal twice to the right, so I got 20%, so that's a no. Question number 2. There are 15 percussion, so 15 goes on top. There's 100 instruments total when you add them all up, so 100 goes on the bottom. So when it's over 100, it's already equal to percent, because percents are always out of 100. So 15 out of 100 is 15%. Move the decimal twice to the left is 0.15. So far we have 15 over 100, 15%, and 0.15. Then I can reduce my fraction by dividing by 5, and I get 3 over 20. So therefore, A, C, and D are all equivalent to 15 over 100. Okay, question number 3. Okay, 3/4 chose the poster, so I divided 3 divided by 4, and I got 0.75. 0.25 wrote a report. So 0.75 is greater than 0.25, so more people did choose to make a poster. Rosa is correct. Number 4, 88 times 25%, so times 0.25, is 22. Remember, 2 decimal places, so 22 is the answer. On number 5, I took 0.25 times 60, and I got 15. I took 30 times 0.40, and I got 12. So notice 15 is greater than 12. For B, I got 18 is less than 30. For question number 6. So there's 60 muffins possible in the case. So 40% of that is 60 times 0.40 is 24 that are blueberry. 20% are pumpkin, so 60 times 0.20 is 12 pumpkin muffins. 30% are cranberry, so 30 times the 60 is 18 cranberry. When I add these up total, I get a total of 54 muffins. So no, she can still put 6 more muffins in the case because she can put a total of 60. So 60 minus the 54 muffins that she has in there, she can still fit 6 more muffins. As always, if you have any questions, email me. Have a great day.